Hello everybody, I'm Tim Rickman and you're watching the video tutorial for how to fold my origami model, Sunflower. I've got a couple of notes about this project before I start folding. The most important is that this model has a tendency to tear if you're not careful during one of the last steps. And there's a couple of ways you can avoid this. Number one, you want to avoid folding firmly through the creases that run through the center of the model. As you can see here, there are a number of creases that cross that center point, and as they compound on top of one another, it weakens the paper. So anytime you have a crease that runs through there, you just want to avoid folding firmly. And also, choose a paper that's thicker than this. This is just some normal origami paper. It rips pretty easily, even across just one fold. You want to pick something that's a little more sturdy. This is some printer paper. It's colored printer paper made for flyers. You can find this at office supply stores, and it holds up a little better under some strain. And that's what I've made most of these models with. These specifically out of that paper I just showed you. And about ratio, the model's going to end up being about half as wide as the original square you started with, meaning if I fold this out of a sticky note, the final is going to be about half the width of that sticky note. This is folded from a 2 foot by 2 foot square. If you fold it much bigger than this, you would actually be able to wear it as a hat, and you could call that sombrero, a portmanteau of sunflower and sombrero. I'm hilarious, I know. If you fold it with double-sided paper, the colors pretty much stay isolated to the top and the bottom. There's very little color change. And with that, I'll go ahead and get started folding. Alrighty, I'm going to be using just a regular printer paper for this tutorial. Now the first step is to fold all of the radial creases from the diagonal corners and also the vertical and horizontal, keeping in mind that you want to avoid folding firmly through the center. So we find our corner and fold down on either side of the center. This model has a lot of repetition. There are going to be some points where I skip ahead after I've shown you how to perform one fold. I'm assuming that you'd be able to rewind the video if you need help performing it again. I've timed myself folding this, and I could fold this model in about 45 minutes. There are different ways you can go about finding these creases. Most of the first part of this tutorial is going to be pre-creasing. The actual shaping of the model happens towards the end. You could fold it freehand or on a surface. I'm going to show you how to fold it on a surface. So once you have those creases, you need to find angle bisectors through the other areas here. And the way I do that is I take one of these shorter creases and match it up along the adjacent diagonal crease, and you'll be able to fold along the entire length of the paper this way, so to speak. So you find where it matches up one on top of each other here, and also at the same time where it matches up here, and avoid folding through the center. And that's an easy way to find the angle bisector for this triangle and this triangle. And you just find the one to the right of that area. Precision is pretty important with any model. This one there's a little more give to, but all in all, you do want to be precise, and then just turn the model and find your other two. Alright. If you do happen to fold this model, I'd love to see a picture of it. And And you can find my Facebook page link in the comments below. So since each of these triangles is essentially the same thing repeated over and over again, the length between this crease and this crease is the same as between here and here, except we have a little extra paper. So if you fold a crease from this corner to this corner, on all four corners we'll have an octagon. And I'll show you an easier way to find it. You want to reverse fold one of your folds here and just kind of flop the paper over, and you can use this corner here and also this straight line, line that up there, and then just find where it meets on the other side as well. That'll give you a pretty good guide for where to find those diagonal creases that are going to shape your corner. And the whole model is based on an octagon, and I end up using the extra triangles on the end to form some extra petals, because sunflowers have a lot of petals. Another interesting point about this model is that it uses a lot of Pythagorean triangles. There's obviously the 45, 45, 90 triangle that I'm folding here, as well as the 12, 13, 5, which make up the large central flap. And I do something with the central flap I haven't seen done in another model. What I'm calling it is a ripple sink, if I can coin a phrase in the origami world. Maybe somebody else has done it, and if they have, please make me aware, but as far as I know, I came up with it. Next, we're going to, whoops, sorry about that. Next, we're going to attack these rabbit ear folds. And like I was saying, this is the same triangle that repeats itself over and over again. The really only difference is you have rabbit ear folds that happen on a corner and some that happen on a raw edge. I'm going to show you an example of each, and I'll leave it to you to fill in the entire circle. Let me show you those real quick, and then when we're done there, I'll skip ahead. So on a raw edge, let's do that first. You can find these folds on a flat surface. So your rabbit ear is going to have an angle bisector that comes up not quite to the end, and then there's going to be two creases that come to meet it, and we call that the center of the triangle. A way to find that is you can fold this flap down to the center, fold the raw edge along this crease here, and just fold down just slightly. And that's a way to, on a flat surface, find that angle. Again, here you fold this raw edge to this angle of the triangle, just the corner, fold that down, and now you can freehand, remember to avoid folding firmly through the center, match up the two sides freehand, just make a mountain fold on either side and bring them together. And now you've done your pre-folds. You can just push this part of the paper up until the raw edge meets on either side. Depending on your skill level, what you're comfortable with, you can pre-fold all of these rabbit ears, or you can do them freehand. And then when you fold it all down and flatten it, it makes one more crease right there. So I'll show you how to do the other one freehand. You're just going to bring the two mountain folded edges together. Not quite to this end and not quite to this end, just fold somewhere in the middle. And then without pre-folding that, you're just going to find this raw edge meets that crease. And this is a diagonal fold. You just find where they meet and roll it down until it all lines up and you can't see anything from the side there. Now we have two rabbit ear folds, and we want to do this, as you can see, I'm not creasing it all the way to the end. We want to fold that exact thing in all the remainder of the triangles. The only difference with these is there's a little extra paper and there's a few extra folds that happen as a consequence of folding a rabbit ear. So fold your center with the flap out, and then once you get to this 45-degree angle, you're going to continue that fold through the other side of this flap. So find a mountain and a mountain, bring those two together, and inside the triangle you're just going to fold the corner, but outside of it you're going to find the raw edge matched up to the raw edge and just fold all the way to the edge of the paper there. So that's what your angle, what your crease is going to look like here. It's going to be a valley fold inside and a mountain fold outside that's going to bisect this 45-degree angle here. And when you flatten this all down into a rabbit ear, it's going to make an extension of that that extra crease I showed you in the first one. That's going to extend along the length of this flap, and that's fine. We don't actually use it, but it doesn't really get in our way either. So one more time, let me show you how to do that. With the flap out to begin with, you find your angle bisector of the long angle. You make these both mountain folds, find your 45-degree angle. I'm just going to do all of this in one step here. Match up those edges, press those down, and then smush it all together. And when you look at it from the top, you won't be able to see anything. Everything lines up along that edge, more or less. There's a little give. It's okay. It's an organic model. It can look a little off. All right, so you just want to repeat this here, 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 throughout the whole thing. I'm going to cut away here and come back once I've filled in the rest of these. So go ahead and pause the video here and complete your folds, and I'll meet back up with you when you're done. Welcome back. All right, now when you're finished with that, your model should look like this. And there are a few more steps before we start shaping the model. Next, we need to make these little marcations along the 8, I'm going to call them petal flaps. I don't know what else to call them. Anyway. Due to the special conditions of the triangles that this model is composed of, from the center of this rabbit ear fold, basically the top of that triangle, between those two, it's 1/12 the total length of the paper. If you draw this crease pattern out on graph paper, you can see it's based on a 24 by 24 grid. We're not box pleating, we're using Pythagorean triangles to find our integers. It's a method of folding origami that I'm working on right now. I'm calling it integer base because it's creating bases with triangles that have exact integer lengths So if we know that between here and here is a distance of 2 from that edge to the raw edge of the paper, we can use that to measure these little tick marks here, and I'll show you how to do that. You're going to rabbit ear 2 triangles that are close to each other along a similar edge, these being on a raw edge. So you valley fold the outside and mountain fold the inside, and it should come together something like this, where you have one flap in the middle, and then you just push this back to find that crease that I was showing you earlier, the top of this triangle and top of this triangle. Now there's a crease that runs along. So each one of these squares that's been created is 2 by 2. So what we want to do is fold up without folding across the entire length of the paper, just staying within this narrow triangle as much as you can. You fold up here, and now we want to make a crease using this raw edge as our landmark. So if you turn the paper over and push it back until you find, roll it until you can make a crease based on that. So now this is a length of 4 units to this from the raw edge, and from the center to the raw edge is 12 units. So if this is 4, if we fold it up once more, we're going to find 2/3 of the way up the paper. It's going to be 4 times 3 essentially. So do the same thing, turn the paper over, and this time you'll be able to find the center will be your folded edge, and then the raw edge should meet. Sometimes it doesn't always match up exactly, but that's okay as long as you get it close. And now we have another crease here. So from here to here is 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, and we want each of these to be divided into fourths, except for the very last markation before you reach the center and the very beginning one between the raw edge and this one we made originally. But you need one here, 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 and here. So if that makes any sense. It might be easier the first time you fold this to fold it on graph paper so you can find these easily. So you fold that one in half, and then as much as you can avoid folding across the paper, it's going to happen a little just because you're bunching the paper up in the center. Okay, and now we need to fold each of these in half. Sorry. Like so. And one more. That's it. So now we have a distance of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Because we skip this one and this one. So these are 2, 2, and the rest is 10. On a side with a 45, 45, 90 triangle with a triangle flap on the edge, it's similar. You're going to find that original marcation the same way. You got a little more paper to deal with though. So you bring these two edges in and then you pinch here. And this you should be able to figure out what I mean here. It's the same thing, only you've got a little extra paper. You've got this triangle to worry about. If you want to, you can flatten this down. It depends on what you're comfortable with. Later on, this might get in your way. Just go ahead and fold it down now. Okay, so now we have our crease that runs along the top of these two. The only difference between these is that you've got this extra flap to worry about. So when you fold this up, it's not as obvious where your edge is, just fold this down. Okay, and you go about it the same way. Fold this so that you find that length there, if that makes sense. And now fold this up along that crease you just made, and fold this down so you will be able to roll the paper up. This little tip here kind of disguises it. Just push that back if you need to. Find the center, also find your edge there. Alright, and just go about dividing these. So this needs to be divided into 4, so we'll cut it in half. This essentially needs to be divided into 4, 2 1 length units and 1. Alrighty, ran out of memory there. Video probably skipped a little bit, but we have this first one, which is the length of 2, but you don't fold that. Now we fold the middle of this here. There. And I don't think I ever folded my 4 long. There we go. And there. Okay, so we have the length of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you want to do this for the other 8, for all 8 there. And I'll cut ahead and leave it to you to fill in the rest of that. I'll meet back up with you for the sink folds. Okay, now as you can see on the crease pattern here, our next step is going to be to fold these sink folds in the middle. We could have done this earlier, but having these markations here allow us to have another point of reference, which will be 7 integer units in, is going to be the top of that triangle. If you're studying this model for math purposes, Pythagorean triangle purposes, you'll notice that the inside sunken triangle is exactly 1 unit away. It's okay. If you go from the center of the triangle to the wall, it's 2 units in any direction. So we're going to sink 1 unit down, and I'll show you how to do that. You want to gather up your rabbit ear, just like we did before. You know what? It's a little easier. Just go ahead and fold the paper in half, and you can knock out 2 of these at a time. Actually, I'm going to show you the raw edge version first. And you can do 2 at a time here. Save yourself some grief trying to do this freehand. I like to make my tutorials as easy as possible, then you could choose to do it the difficult way later. So you flatten one of those down, and then you make your petal fold, your flap. Now we're going to fold this corner along that crease to the center, and it's going to meet here. So this is a length of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in. That's where the crease is going to end. So we're going to fold this point across that crease to the center crease, and then it's going to run along adjacent to the center crease. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So right there. So we use that markation to find where the triangle, where the flap is going to end. We do that same thing on the other side. Fold over through all the layers there, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . Now, this flap is 2 units wide, and the edges are adjacent to the center. And do the same thing on the other side before you unfold all of this. You're going to fold your flap down. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You do it by eyeball too. It's kind of obvious which one it is because the final square at the end here is going to be an exact square. If you gather what I mean, you can kind of guess which one is the 7th integer. Alright, you can unfold all of that, and you see we now have our pre-folds for our sync fold. Right? We're not going to do it yet, I'm just showing you. You could reverse fold these now if you want to. I'm just showing you that we've created the creases to do a sync. See? Just like that. Now on the diagonal on the edges with the extra flaps, there's going to be one more step. We're going to do ourselves a favor and do a little more pre-folding here. So again, it's the same process. You just fold the paper in half and then find this here, pinch this together and push it down. Here's a little different because you're actually going to fold this down. You're going to have this extra flat part here, so you do the side that's away from that. Like so. Unfold that, fold it back up, fold this flat back, push this down, and then do the top one. And that is one difference. And the other difference is that also at this point is a convenient point to pre-fold these little 4 pointed star shapes that are in each of the corners. Because you have your paper folded in such a way that you can go ahead and take this middle triangle, point it up, push inside along those creases that you made a few steps earlier, and push it down into a diamond. Okay, and now you're going to take the top flap, one layer, and fold from this corner, a crease that runs along that, and this point is going to meet this point. So you're just folding it in half, the diamond from top to bottom. Just like that. So now you have a flap on top. Okay, fold that back. And now, starting from the point that now has more layers, you're going to do an angle bisector here, from this raw edge to the center. So roll all these top layers over, meet in the center, and do the same thing on the top. If you've folded dragons before, you've probably seen these folds done to find the mouth and the horns for a dragon. I've borrowed it for this model because it makes some nice flaps. You undo those flaps and reverse fold. You reach in and reverse fold one side first. You kind of flatten that out, if that makes sense. Okay. So it did look like this, and now you reverse fold that angle bisector. It looks like this, and then fold along and push that back. Do the same thing on the other side. Reach inside, reverse that, push it over on the center crease, and then push it back. You'll have something that looks like that now. And now you're going to do an angle bisector on the top, there and there. I'll push this back up to the camera when I'm done here and show you what I mean, so you get a clearer picture. So now you have two flaps. Here and here. Those angle bisectors. Push those to the side. And now where they meet, where those creases meet, from here to here, you're going to reach in, lift up those layers on the top, and push back along and make a crease. And then reverse. You're going to make like a diagonal. You're going to roll this back and make a diagonal that goes also not just from here to here, but also make another crease here that goes from that corner to where the crease meets in the center, and on the other side as well. So you push this whole thing back like so. This is pretty tricky if your paper is smaller, but if paper is larger, you can get the technique of this down. I know all my viewers have different skill levels. I don't want to leave anybody behind here, even though this is a pretty complicated model. There you go. So it should look like that now. And if you're familiar with this, you know now that we unfold here, push everything back out to our first step when we folded the flap back. Lift that flap here, and now you're going to pinch here and push in the sides till it lies down like this, and you have a little flap on the top, a triangle flap on the top like there. And now do the same thing, push this down, open it up and push it down. And now you have a crease that runs along the tip. You want to push the top back on that and then pinch the sides in along the creases that are already there. And I'll give you one more point. Okay, one last thing to do here. You're going to make angle bisectors here and here, but it's not exactly a petal fold. You're going to roll the paper under. I forget what that's called. Or if you don't want to just do it freehand, you can fold the bisector first, unfold, lift the paper up, and then push. Just realize that this diagonal that forms on top is kind of made as you fold it across. So there, that's completed. You want to do that as you come around to each one of these corner flaps. You want to do that to each one. When you're done, for the time being, just go ahead and unfold it. We're just pre-creasing everything. So I've done my sink fold on the top and bottom there. I've done my star shape in the top. Go ahead and complete the rest of the circle. You've got this, the rest of it to do, and I'll meet back up with you for, let's see, that's it. We're going to start collapsing the model down next. All right. All right, that's done. And also I've gone ahead and pre-folded the sink folds. So if that's going to help you when we sync this together, if you go ahead and do those first. I'll give you a moment to do those if you wish. So here we go. Coming to the sort of the signature fold of this whole piece. The entire reason I put it together, I was actually looking for a way to add some eyes to a model of a caterpillar I'm working on. Looking for something new to do with a flap, a 360-degree point or circle if you work with river and circle. I'm going to go ahead and start collapsing this down, and I'm going to kind of explain what I'm doing as I go and also ramble a little bit about some things that are on my mind. I want to start just by sinking those down, and in between every area it's going to make a petal here. and you want to position those up as you go around. Same thing with here. You're going to sink down on either side. And the only difference is you're going to have this extra triangle of paper here. But you sink that down, and again you have that pedal. Just keep going around the triangle, the circle like that. I want to give a shout out to all my supporters. First, my family, my wife and kids, and mom and dad and brother and aunts and uncles and cousins. And as you guys probably know, my brother does the sound for these videos. He's super thankful for that. Obviously, give a special thanks to my wife, putting up with me folding paper all the time. And I want to say thank you to my fans. Without you, nobody would be watching these videos. Anybody watching this, I consider a fan, and I really thank you for your support. If you like what you see here, if you like seeing me do these tutorials for these original models, every tutorial I do is an original model. I don't yet do covers of other people's work. They've all published their own stuff, and I figure if you want to figure out how to fold that, you can find that resource somewhere else. I'm really interested in becoming a published artist. I know there are some resources out there like Origami USA and the like. But to get published, you also kind of need to develop a brand, a name, and a following. And I encourage you, if you like this video, you know, my success is measured by my fans. So please go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you like this video. And that will help to let others know that my designs and such are marketable, so to speak. Part of the reason I do this is for the love of origami that I have. It's a favorite art form of mine. I like all kinds of art, but really fell in love with origami. And I do it for the love of the art, but also I have kids to feed and things like that. So one of my aspirations is to someday become a published artist and have some books to sell, things like that. So if you could help me out, just click the like button if you enjoyed watching this video. That would be much appreciated. I also want to talk about this fold that's coming up. Earlier I called it a ripple sink, and I kind of got that name from when you throw a stone into a lake, you get those ripples, and that's pretty much what we're going to do. I'm not aware of this kind of a fold being done in any other model. If someone knows of an example of it that's already been published, please let me know. I don't want to step on anybody else's territory, but if it hasn't been created yet, if I could be the one to name it, that's what I would call it, just based on that's kind of what it looks like. A ripple sink. Okay, so at this point, the model kind of looks like a banana rocket ship. I've heard it called other things. What we're going to do is circularly pleat mountain fold, valley fold, mountain fold, valley fold, mountain fold, valley fold. Up until we get to where the end of our sink fold meets, right here. Theoretically, this model is straight up and down It's the same width from here to here as it is from here to here at the base. And then the top, if we actually did all of our creases, would come to a point and the top would be angled. So essentially we're going to collapse all of this down with pleats and then spread out the part that would be angled, if that makes any sense. I hope it does. So to get this started, it's really tricky. There's a lot of kind of you know, some working with the paper to get it to do what you want, but you start by grabbing any one of the petals and kind of pushing in from the back and making that first mountain fold. The ring that the petals live on is going to be a mountain fold all the way around. So just go ahead and grab, make sure everything is kind of pushed together the right way. One more thing on the inside, it kind of helps if you can probably see it better on yours, but you'll see that there are these flaps that run down the length of the paper, and you can push them to one side or the other. It's better if you push them toward the side that a flap with less paper on it has. Move them away from these and toward these. It doesn't make or break the model, but it makes it a little easier to fold, I've found, if you go ahead and fold those down first. But if you forget, it's not the end of the world. Once you get comfortable with this model, like I said, it takes about 45 minutes to fold it, depending on the paper you choose, the technique you use to fold it, whether or not the paper is cooperating with you, because sometimes that happens. Okay, and also when you get to the very end, be real careful. That is the step that it wants to rip at. Not what we're doing here, but once we get this part collapsed down and we start spreading out the center, shut up, that's where it tends to rip. So just be careful on the step coming up after this. Okay, so this can be pretty frustrating, but I've done it more than enough times to know that it actually works. It's just a lot of finagling with the paper. I want to film this part. I don't want to skip ahead because I want to give you guys a really clear idea of what you have to do. So it's starting to cooperate a little more. Once you have the first one down, it should cooperate a little better. Right now you have all these petals kind of in the way. The paper doesn't really know what you want it to do yet. Alright, so we have it mountain folded down. Kind of take 3 at a time, push them down. That next mark is going to be a valley fold. So just kind of take a bunch of them at a time and make a crease there, and then move on to the next side. Some of this is pre-folding. Remember that a lot of the paper you have under here hasn't been creased yet. You're using that top pleat that the petals emerge from as a guide right now. So once you have this started, it should go easier as it is now. And then obviously the next one is a mountain fold, so you can kind of reach in from the inside and pinch down, and it should actually want to collapse at this point a little bit. It's gonna kind of bulge out at some points, and it might seem kind of awkward and uncomfortable, but if you work at it, if you're persistent, then it'll all come together quite easily. within a certain perspective. But in reality, this is probably one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do in origami. What the heck am I even talking about? Okay. It's not the most difficult model, but as far as one step goes, yeah. It's pretty difficult. I don't know exactly how they rate difficulty of steps. I've seen it tried to be done before. This is probably on the harder side of steps. See what I meant about rambling? I'm going to do that a little bit. But as you see, as you go along here, it gets a little easier. The first ring kind of holds everything together. And now you're going to go in for this next one. And it took me a while to get this video out. The first time I had everything done up until about this point. And then this happened. Yeah. Wasn't really happy about that. It seems like every time I try to make a video, something comes up and it gets postponed by about 3 or 4 days from when I actually want to post it. Oh well, first world problems. I'm sure it's not the end of the world. I like to be pretty consistent with my fans though. As I was mentioning before, I really appreciate all the support you guys give me. When I announce on my Facebook page that I'm gonna post a video, I don't like to disappoint. Again, I want to say a big, huge thank you to all my fans. I'm leaving out a group of people, the group of people who get on YouTube and just kind of like to watch stuff. Maybe if you don't even fold origami, maybe you're just watching this because you like the idea of origami and you want to see other people fold it. Hopefully I've inspired you to want to pick up a piece of paper and fold something for yourself. But regardless, thank you to that group, not just the paper people, but also the YouTubers in general, and also my ASMR following. I hope that you have found this video relaxing. We're nearing the end, so it's going to have 1, 2, 3 ridges, and then on either side of those you've either got the center or the petals. So 1, 2, 3, we're on our 3rd ridge. That means we've folded all the way up to the top of our sink folds. Try to flatten these out as much as possible and push everything down so it stands upright now. I want these rings to stand upright because, as I was explaining, it's basically a cylinder that's been collapsed. So ideally, which paper doesn't often deal in ideals, but ideally they should stand more or less up and down, like so. What am I forgetting to mention? Oh, I have another tutorial that'll be coming out soon. I don't dare say when, but it's a simpler flower based on integer base, some Pythagorean triangles. So if you're teaching, if you're using these videos to teach mathematics, this is going to be an easier. I'll briefly do a little plug here. This is the crease pattern for it if you're interested in folding that. Okay. And now to finish this out, we have all of our folds done. You're going to spread this out. So reach in from the back however you can and make sure that all your folds have been completed and everything sunk down the correct way. This will take a little bit of wiggling too, even if you look at it from the back to make sure that all of these are lined up pretty close, these rings on the inside. And once you know that everything is in the right place, start spreading this out. Now, before we started collapsing this down, this tower, this cylinder, had a cone on the top of it, and this is the angled part. Everything, the three rings that are around it, these pleats, that was the straight up and down part of our cylinder with a cone on top of it. And now we're kind of spreading apart the very ends of those sink folds to allow this thing to take up a little more space than it did. There's really no way to pre-fold that. You wouldn't want to, because the idea is that this is sort of a lock to keep the center, not only to fill the space, but also to keep the whole thing together by opening up the paper in a way where it can't go back to the way it was before. So it's sort of a soft lock. I like to add locks into my models. For me, it gives them a feeling of completeness. I love it when a model has some kind of surprise to it. This entire model surprised me because I wasn't even intending to create a sunflower. I intended to make eyes, figure out something else to do with a complete circle. And hopefully someday soon you'll see that caterpillar model I was talking about. But we're very nearly done. The only thing left we have to do is to refold all of these. So you take these and collapse them down how we did before. And if you've folded dragons before, you know. How to go about doing this. Charles Esseltine's Dragon in Flight is my inspiration for using this to finish out these points here. We've already done these folds earlier. If you've skipped ahead and somehow missed that, it is earlier in the video. I'll be sure to add all the links in the video description below. www.facebook.com/Rickman Origami, or you can just Google Rickman Origami Facebook to find my official Facebook page. I do reviews of books and updates on what projects I'm working on. And, I try to take some pretty cool pictures too. Some people say they really like my photography of origami. Every once in a while I'll throw up a picture of some weird random thing that I've done creatively, like a sandcastle, or once in a blue moon. But mostly it's 99% origami. So if you're a fan of origami, be sure to like that page and you'll have my posts show up in your news feed. Also, I have some more videos if you haven't seen them already. I have a tutorial for my model Flying Squirrel, which I'm pretty proud of. I like that model. I've got one for a model I call Scalloped Bowl. I have a tutorial for a model that is a hat based on the traditional origami crane. Origami crane hat, party hat. I have a tutorial I'm very proud of for a Venus flytrap, a realistic one. There's been some other Venus flytraps, but I wanted one that was true to form. Anyway, let me get back to what I'm supposed to be doing here. If you look on the back, you want to lift up here and push these 2 points up. Depending on the shape, size of the paper, whatever, you can actually turn these into extra little points, petals, but they don't really show up, so I'm going to ignore them for purposes of this. What you're really after is to be able to push these points up. And as you push these up, you kind of want them to angle in between these 2 points here. It's going to kind of want to go more towards the center, but just kind of shape them this way, and then once you get them to this side, you can kind of sink them open like so, so they'll want to look petal-like. Like that. And then you do the same thing to this one on the other side, and reverse. Be real careful here, they might rip. If you're paying attention, you might have just heard that one rip on me a little bit. That's okay. Oh, this is what I was talking about. Why those folds should go to one side or the other. That's why it ripped. If you fold those inside lengths to one side or the other, see how this one folded down very nice and flat, and this one, it kind of curls here? That's why. It helps. And you can just kind of push that over if it happened to you. Not the end of the world. And the very last part I have to show you is you're going to spread open this. It's a very narrow little point, but you can turn this into an extra petal. You're going to push this to one side. Not the entire thing, but just push it off to the one side. You kind of roll it over. I'll show you a little bit better what I mean. You just kind of flatten out that, but you don't push it over entirely. You kind of want a middle ground between this flap and that flap. Just like that. And then you can pull these little itty bitty points out to the side, do some shaping like that. But more importantly, you've got this flap, and it's right now it's hiding underneath that top one. Pull it to one side or the other, being careful not to rip it. It gives the model some extra little flair there. Let's see. I think, okay, 8, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So all in all, it has 28 points if you count these little ones. Obviously, a sunflower has a lot more points, but as far as turning a piece of paper into sunflower, I'd say that's pretty realistic, which is what I go for with my models. I'm going to cut ahead and show you what the model looks like once you've done everything. Alright, this is what the model should look like once it's completed. Again, just thank you for watching my video. If you saw this and you happen to want to publish it in a book, contact me through www.facebook.com/Rickman Origami. If you're a fan, please visit there as well. Subscribe to my YouTube channel here. There's a little button in the top you can subscribe with. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and my Facebook as well. Thanks so much for watching. This is Tim Rickman from sunny San Diego, California, wishing you a beautiful day. And stay tuned, everybody. Got some more cool projects coming your way. Alrighty, it's been real fun. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye. Hello everybody, I'm Tim Rickman and blah blah blah.